In 1992, I went to Eastern Pentecostal Bible College, which is basically our version of a seminary, and I was in training. That's where I got my bachelor's degree in theology. And in 1992 is when I started there, and I, of course, graduated 4 years later with my bachelor's degree in theology in 1996. And in 1992, when we went there, our school had an incredible sports program. That school has now been renamed from Eastern Pentecostal Bible College, which we all called it EPBC. Everybody understand why that is? Eastern Pentecost, you take the first letter. Everybody with me? Because I'm going to say the name later on. I don't want you to go, EPBC, what? Eastern Pentecostal Bible College, EPBC. It has now been renamed as Master's College and Seminary. We have had a number of our students, people from our church, go through that school, and excited about that. But it used to be called Eastern Pentecostal Bible College. And when I started there, we had an incredible sports program. Our school was involved in the InterVarsity sports program. They played in Toronto, played other universities and other colleges and other schools. And internally, we also had a great sports program. And internally, we had an incredible hockey league. And how it worked was every year, and if you know anything about university college, you get known by the year you started or the year you graduated. And that's the year you're known as, right? It's the year. And so for us, when we started, there was this hockey league. And every year had their own hockey team. We had a school hockey team, but every year also had their own hockey team. And every week, we all played round robin. There were 6 or 7 teams, and we played round robin every week, and we played a whole season all year long until the spring when we had playoffs and we had a championship cup, and they would go and set up the organ and everything at the arena, and we packed it with 300 or 400 people from the school for every game. It was huge. We had a great time. And when I went there, it was our year, and we had to sit down and choose what logo we were going to use. So if you know anything about me, you will know that this jersey pains me a lot. If you know anything about hockey, I am not an Ottawa Senators fan. Is there any Senators fans in the room? Oh, wow, that's really too bad. I figured we might have one, but there's Senators fans in the room, anybody? Okay, we got it. Okay. Nathan, you're on your own. And what happened was this. We would sit down and we had to pick a team. And I voted in my class, I wanted to be a Maple Leafs jersey. That's what I wanted us to be. Toronto Maple Leafs. We had some people that wanted to be Hartford Whalers, if you remember back in the day. We had some people who wanted to be the Quebec Nordiques. Old school Quebec Nordiques. We had all these different jerseys. We had people who wanted to be the Edmonton Oilers. That was my second choice, because they're my second favorite NHL team. But we argued back and forth, and eventually we decided, because 1992 was the year that the Ottawa Senators came into the NHL. And we chose the Ottawa Senators, and one of my good buddies kind of redid the logo and put a cross in the background under the symbol. And so we were the Eastern Senators, the 92 Senators. The year before us was the San Jose Sharks, and they rejigged their logo. The year after us was the Florida Panthers, and they rejigged it with a panther with teeth that had crosses on them. It looked like a gang member, to be honest. Maybe that's why we didn't like playing them. But that's kind of what they were. The year after that was the Mighty Ducks, now the Anaheim Ducks. And so we played, and we would play every week. But here's the thing. When I was in Bible college, I was part of 2 teams. The EPBC team, and we were all part of the same school, cheered for the same thing, supported the same thing. But I was also part of the 92 Senators. And my favorite baseball player was Jesse Barfield, number 29. That's why that was. I've since migrated to a hockey number of 96. But I had number 29, and Clue is my last name. I put it on my jersey, and I was part of 2 teams. A really big team and a smaller team, and then I was also me. And what was unique about that was the same people that I played with on my team, the Sens, the same people that I played with, the same people that I played against on the ice, were the exact same people that we would share dorms together. They would pray for me in chapel services. We'd pray for each other in the dorms. We sat in classes together. We sat and studied together for exams in the dorms during exam season. They're the same people that I hung out late at night in the dorms till 2 and 3 in the morning, and you're just laughing and talking and doing things. It's the exact same people that I was playing against and even playing with. We were part of this larger team, but we were also part of this smaller team. There was my team, and there was the bigger team. There was the bigger team, and there was my team. We were part of the same thing. And I want you to understand something. They were equally important. In both teams, I got a chance to have relationship, use my giftings, use my talents, use my abilities. And I was the guy who played on the penalty kill. I didn't get very many penalties, but I played on the penalty kill because I would throw my body in front of the puck. And I could skate really fast. And I was on the second line. I wasn't on the top line. I wasn't on the third line. We only had 3. I was on the top line, or on the second line. And I would kill penalties. In all my 4 years of school, do you know how many points I got, including goals and assists? We played about 45 games. Do you know how many points I got? Not 1. I can get 1 by rolling on the ice. I had 12 points. So 1 point every 4 games. Won't get me to the NHL. Might get me to play for the Senators today. Pino got that one. Come on, some of you know. And after the Habs game last night, I could play for the Habs. Anyway, there's 2 teams. A big team and a small team. The truth is that as a class, we had to sit down and we had to put aside my preferences, and I had to sit down with all of the couple hundred people in my class, and we had to pick a jersey that we could unite around for our class. And we had to do that. It didn't mean that the bigger team wasn't important. It was extremely important. And it didn't mean that the smaller team was more important. It wasn't. They were equally as important. Both teams mattered. Last week I talked to you about a team that I called, very on a cheesy note, Team Jesus. And I talked to you about how God's invitation to us, every person who's ever lived, whoever, is to be invited to Team Jesus. And then I told you about how Team Jesus, there's only one way to get on Team Jesus, and that's to accept the invite. And the way to accept the invite is to accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, to be born again. And then once you're on the team, all of us, anyone who's on Team Jesus, is charged to invite everybody else, whoever. Invite anybody, whoever, regardless of who they are. Next week, that was last week, next week I'm going to talk to you about the largest team that's ever existed, the church. That's what I'm going to talk about next week. Today, I want to talk about a church. Not the A team, but a church. A smaller version of the church, larger than just me, smaller than everybody. I want to talk to you about Maple Community Church today. But I want to do it in a way of why Maple Community Church exists so you can understand why our church is here today. But before I get to that and finish it up this morning, I want to give you a couple core things to help you understand what a church is. My daughter is 6.5 years old, well, going to be 7 in April. And every time we drive by here, we drive by the school, she goes, "Daddy, there's our church." And we're always like, "Yeah, that's right. But Daddy, our church is also a school." "Yeah, that's right." And she goes into her school and she thinks it's a church. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how sometimes we can do that as mature people. And I want to help us understand what the church really is, that it isn't the bricks, that it isn't the building. And so I want to talk to you about that really quickly. Here's a foundational thought. It's not mine, it's the Bible. And I know for some of you, you're going to say, "Well, I already know this." Well, I'm going somewhere with it. According to the Bible, the church is never the building or the place, it's the people. According to the Bible, the church, a church, is never a place, it's people. It's always people, it's never a place. And without getting too technical, in the New Testament, the Newer Testament, the second half of the Bible, was actually written in Greek. The original language they wrote it in was Greek mostly, almost completely. And in the Greek, they use this one word that we translate church. In fact, it's translated a number of ways, but we translate it church. It's this word ecclesia. You'll see it on the screen. It's a Greek word that actually doesn't really mean church. What it really means is a gathering, a congregation, an assembly, a group that's meeting. So you could say a group of people is an ecclesia. You could say that for any group of people. But when it's in reference to people meeting because of faith in Jesus Christ, the Newer Testament believers, the first century believers, began to use the word that would translate toward church. And so church became to mean the people. Now I want you to catch this. There is not one time in the 114 uses of the word ecclesia, sometimes in the New Testament, they translate it as assembly. Other times it's congregation. Other times it's church. There's not one time that word is used in reference to a place. Never. It's only used in reference to people. It's never used in reference to a place. So, while we say things like, I'm going to go to church, I'm going somewhere, there's nothing wrong with saying that. But technically, it isn't the truth. Because people who are on Team Jesus are the church. We don't go to church. We are the church. Hello?
Yes, sir.
And that's an important concept to understand. We don't go to church, although there's nothing wrong with saying that. We do go to church. We are the church. Never is it used in a sense where it can say it's a place or a building or brick or a roof or hallways. It's never a place. It's always the people. And here's the problem. There isn't anything inherently wrong with saying that's the church building. There's nothing inherently wrong. If you understand that you're just simplifying saying it like this. Technically, the people who wear badges in our city with guns and drive around in cars that pull you over when you break the law, technically, their name, without their actual person name, their title is police officer. You know what we call them most times? Cops. Cops. Well, technically, they're a police officer. But just to shrink it down for speed's sake, we say it's a cop. That's a cop. They're a cop. We'll say that. We do that a lot of times. Referees in sports. Oh, come on, ref. We don't say, come on, referee or official. We say, hey, ref, what's going on? Some of you say it louder than that. With a different look on your face than a smile. The truth is, there's nothing inherently wrong with saying, that's the church or I'm going to church. As long as you understand that the church really isn't the building and it's not the place, it's the people. Because if you believe that the church is the building, I want you to catch what happens. And this is a super important, very important point. If you don't understand that the church is the people and not the place, you will begin to give power to the place instead of the people. And a whole bunch of people in our world for centuries have worshipped places. And we miss who we're supposed to worship, which is God. The New Testament scriptures, it's to be on the screen behind me. It says this in Romans chapter 8. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead, which is the Spirit of God, lives in you. If we don't remember that the power dwells in the church, who are the people, then we'll believe the power's in the building. There is no power in this room on its own. It's just bricks. But listen, the moment you bring Team Jesus people together, there's power there. That's why, as a church, we can meet in a gymnasium with a dragon on the back wall and we can worship Jesus Christ, because even though a dragon's back there, Jesus Christ has authority in this place right now. Hello? See, the church is the people, it's not the place. That's why we can meet in a school. That's why you can meet under a bridge. That's why you can meet in a forest. That's why you can meet in your basement. That's why you can meet on a highway. That's why you can have church in a car. Because the church is the people. The power is in the people from God. Secondly, this is an important point. There isn't just the church. There are also a church, and the church. There are little churches, and there is the church. Smaller expressions, and the massive expressions.